To judicial matters now, 1 year after the Supreme Court's landmark ruling granting full financial autonomy to Nigeria's 774 local governments, the judgment is yet to be enforced. Despite the court's directives stopping state governments from controlling council funds, allocations are still not being paid directly. The July 2024 ruling followed a suit by the federal government seeking to end decades of state interference. A 10-member committee was set up to enforce the decision, but political and bureaucratic delays have allegedly stalled progress. Now, joining me to discuss the implications of the delay and the disobedience of the Supreme Court ruling on local government autonomy is the Executive Director, Sterling Center for Law, Deji Ajare. Thank you so much, Deji, for joining us on the news.
Thank you so much for having me. Good evening.
You're welcome. Now, Nigeria's federal executive is yet to comply with a Supreme Court judgment over local government financial autonomy. Is that not contempt of court?
Absolutely, I quite agree with you. Yes, it is contemptuous of the executive not to comply with the judgment of the Supreme Court regarding the autonomy of local governments. But then again, of course, the government is going to explain away its actions by saying it's only merely putting the structures in place. It's taking its time to put in structures in place to ensure a seamless functioning of the autonomy has been conferred on the local government. But then again, I think it may not necessarily be correct that is what is happening. I think there's quite a lot of politicking that is being done with the issue of autonomy, and that's quite sad, because when this government came in and took up the issue of autonomy all the way to the Supreme Court, it gave quite a lot of those of us who really thought that indeed the local government deserves autonomy and who have been clamoring for it all along all these years. It gave quite a lot of us hope that indeed this is eventually going to happen. But unfortunately, it looks like the government has allowed, once again, just like in the past, allowed the issue of the autonomy of the local governments to become embroiled in its own politics. And unfortunately, no one can really say how this is going to end until it really ends, because from all indications, the government seems to be too busy, too engaged with the politicking for 2027 rather than actual actions on ground right now.
Okay, so since we are seeing a refusal to honor a court ruling over this matter, there should be consequences, don't you believe?
Well, unfortunately, if there are going to be consequences, there is someone has to bring it to the attention of the courts that this is what is happening. The court is not going to act so moto, especially since it is not contempt that is permitted in the face of the court. Someone will have to move, and quite naturally, the person who is supposed to move is the person who is actually guilty of contempt, because ordinarily it should be the Attorney General of the Federation who should be doing this. But then again, who are you going to blame for non-implementation of the autonomy that was conferred on the local government in the Constitution and as affirmed by the Supreme Court last year?
But then what does the federal government stand to gain? Because you talked about the politicization of this financial autonomy to local governments. What is it that the government at the federal level is trying to gain by stalling on obeying this order?
Well, at the risk of being wrong, I'm going to tell you quite clearly, you know that a lot of the governors are not happy with that development. A lot of the governors do not want the local government to strictly control their own finances. They still want to run the show for the local government. So you know that certainly the state governors are going to be definitely putting in and be negotiating with the federal government on how, to go about this whole autonomy thing, especially since it is like novel in this current political experience. And so there's going to be quite a lot of trading going on. And I suspect that indeed that's what's going on at the moment. And of course, you are also aware that there are some other issues too in the states regarding the proprietary of the sitting local government chairman. In Osun, you have that. In Rivers, you had that, and so on. Just resolved one in Edo State. APC is deeply invested in all of these states, in Osun, in Edo, in Rivers State. So quite naturally, these interests are varied. There are plenty, but I believe very strongly it is all of these interests that are definitely at play and stalling the full and comprehensive implementation of the autonomy of the local governments.
Okay, so Deji, though this is not part of the Apex Court's decision, should the local government also probably comply with the CBN requirement to submit a 2-year audited financial reports before accounts for payments are open for them? I mean, that's one of the criteria being placed before them.
Yeah, well, yes, of course, but you see, it's the voice of Jacob and the
hand of Esau.
Voice of Jacob and the body of Esau. The point is that you find even in quite a lot of these states, what are the local government authorities saying? A lot of them are rejecting the autonomy that is constitutionally conferred on them. They are rejecting it. What does that tell you? It tells you the governors are still controlling the machinery of the local government, and the governors do not want it to happen. So quite naturally, whatever they need to do to comply with they will not do it. The states, if assuming that was even part of the Supreme Court decision, it would not be done. But at the end of the day, trust me, it's all going to be all about politics at the end of the day. And it is the man who has the most to lose, or who has the most that is at the end of the day going to end up giving up on this issue of local government autonomy, which is sad, really, because we had a glorious opportunity to really correct over 2 decades of anomaly here. But that opportunity may once again be lost.
All right, Deji Ajare, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us.